Hello, my name's Frank, and today we're going to go over graphing linear inequalities. The questions we worked with today will ask you to find the slope of each line given, that's M, find the y-intercept of each line given, that's B, and to graph the line and to shade in the appropriate side. And what we're going to be doing is getting our equations in the form of y equal mx plus b, but we're going to replace the equal with an inequality. So I assume everybody has had graphing of lines. So we're going to find the slope and intercept of each line, and then we're going to graph it. And the new part is we're going to apply the inequality. So let's look at our first example. Right here. Okay, this is in y equal mx plus b form. So part A is our slope, and that would be 2, the number in front of the x, and b would be our y-intercept, which we likewise call b. So how did you graph this inequality line? Well, you went up to your intercept of 4, put a dot, and then your slope is 2, which can be thought of as the rise of 2 over the run of 1, so you go up 2 and over 1. Now, this is where it differs. It's less than. It's not equal to. So you can't draw a solid line, because a solid line states it's equal to it. So what you do is you line them 2 points up, and the way to designate it doesn't include it is you draw a broken line. And since it's a broken line, you make it a line by putting arrows on the ends of it. Now, this is where the shading comes in. Y is less than. Well, some students can just say this. If y is less than 4, it's got to be down here. So you've broken this up into below the line and above the line. So since it's either going to be below or over, so if y is less than 4, y would be 3. Y would be 2, y would be 1. So that seems to think you would shade in beneath it. That's the approach we'll take today. Also, if you were to take any random point, if you were to say 0, 0, put 0 in for x and 0 for y, you would see that 0 is less than 4. So that says this would be accepted. Whereas if you put a point like 0, 6 in, you would say 6, is that less than 0 plus 4? That would be unaccepted. So this one's no good. This one is good. So that says you would shade in below. So how do you shade in? That's up to your teacher. A lot of times we highlight it in class. I usually just go like this so that the student can see that any point below that broken line will work. Okay, so that's our first example. Our second example is a takeoff of that. You have y is greater than negative x plus 5. So the slope is the coefficient in front of the x, which is negative 1, and your y-intercept of b is 5. So now we're going to graph this one. So we go to our y-intercept of 5, put a dot, go down 1 and over 1, put another dot, and then ask yourself, is it equal to? No, it's strictly greater than. So you draw a broken line. Put your arrows on your line. And then you say, all right, now where do I shade? Over to the right or over to the left? Well, it says y is greater than. Well, if this is 5, where's y greater than 6? So you would shade above. Now, notice what would happen. Suppose I just said, let's put 0 in there, 0, 0. Let's try this point. Would 0 be greater than 0 plus 5? 0 is not greater than 5. So this one is a no-no. You reject this answer. So you definitely shade in to the right. Okay, our third line is the same exact thing. We changed one number, but we changed the inequality. So we have A, the slope, to be -1, and the intercept to be 4. Just like our previous example. We go up to 4, put a dot, and then our slope is down 1 and over 1. But now it's equal to. So when you graph a line's equal to, you use a solid line. So we have to draw a solid line from now make sure it's solid. Now where do you shade? Well, what's it say? Y's less than 4. So what's less than 4? 3, 2, 0, 1, 0. So we shade in below. Okay? All right, our next example is 2/3 x minus 4. So we have a fraction as a slope. So A, our slope is -2/3. I'm sorry, it's positive 2/3. Positive 2/3. And our intercept is -4. So we go down to our intercept, our y-intercept. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we go up 2 and over 3. Put a dot. Now, it's equal to it, so it's a solid line. And where do you shade? It says y is greater than. So give me a number greater than -4, any number above. So you would shade in this here. Okay? Put enough marks so your teacher, whoever you're sending the paper to is clear that you're shading in above. All right, our next one should be easier, but there's no x. So it makes you feel better, write that. 0x. So what's the slope? The slope is 0. The intercept is 3. So we go up to 3. Now, what's our rise? 0. What's our run? 1. Or if you feel like it, you could take a hike and maybe run 100. Run 100 that way. Just run. Run sideways. So, go sideways. So if you run 1, it's here. If you run 10, it's here. Wherever you want to run, just run. But it's a broken line because it doesn't have no equal under it. Okay, now hopefully you stop running so we can do to the next problem. Now, this says y is greater than. So give me a number greater than 3. Up here, 4. Okay. All right. Our next problem is a very confusing question for students the first time. They say, how can I graph this? Y equal mx plus b. There's no y. You got a good point. So you say, well, so how do I graph it? Well, let's look at it. It says x is equal to 5 to begin with. So go over to 5. And what's y equal to? They don't say. Because y could be 0, but x is 5. Y could be 1, but x is 5. Y could be 10, but x is 5. And you could just keep running, or you could keep going down, but x is 5. So what do you notice? X is 5. So you say, well, wait a minute. If I connect them points, I have a vertical line. And it's a solid line. Yes. So we connected them. So you say, well, how do I answer the slope? Well, there is no slope. Try laying an object on that line, see what happens. It wouldn't react, it would fall. Well, the slope of a vertical line is what's called undefined, or it doesn't have it. It's impossible. It's impossible to measure the steepness of a vertical line. You say, well, where's the y-intercept? Well, does it ever cross the y-axis? No. So that word is none. A lot of confusion on that one. Now, x is less than 5. Give me a number less than 5. Maybe 4, maybe 0, maybe negative 10. But anyway, it's to the left. Okay. Our next example is the same concept, but now it's not in the form y equal or x equal to, so you just have to put it in that form. So you begin by subtracting 4x from both sides. And you get, well, 5y. Let's put the negative 4x first, even though it's not a necessity, but it's easier to recognize as your mx. Divide by 5. And we'll write y is less than or equal to negative 4/5 x plus 4. A, our slope, is negative 4/5. And our intercept B is 4. So we go up to 4 units on the y-axis. We go down 4 and over 5 with a dot. We look up, it's equal, solid line. And where do we shade? It's below 4. So it's 3, 2, 1, 0. It's underneath. So any point underneath that line will work. And then our last one, just something that might be a little bit more challenging, but I know you like this. So let's do this by switching everything to an improper fraction. 2 times 1 plus 1 would be 3/2 y plus 1/3 x is less than 2y. Now, how you go about doing this is up to you. But one thing I find out is students normally don't like fractions. I don't know why, they're beautiful, but they don't. So to get rid of them, we find the least common denominator of 2 and 3. Remember, these are understood to be 1s. And we multiply by 6, which is the least common denominator. So we say 6 divided by 2 is 3 times 3 would be 9y. 6 divided by 3 is 2 times 1x is 2x. Now, 6 divided by 1, of course, is 6 times 2 is 12y. And then 6 divided by 1 times negative 1 is negative 6. Now, let's decide what would be the quickest way to do this. Well, I want to reinforce a concept, so I choose to do it this way just to reinforce So we're going to subtract the 12y from both sides. And we get negative 3y plus 2x is less than negative 6. We then subtract the 2x from both sides and rewrite negative 3y is less than, in putting the x term first, and then we divide by negative 3. Now, when you divide an inequality by a negative, you reverse the inequality. So you take the less than and make it greater than. You have the same rules of sign numbers. A negative over negative is a positive plus 2. So we have our slope to be 2/3, our intercept to be 2, and then we plot it. We go up 2, the dot. We rise 2 and run 3. Rise 2, run 3, another dot. It's a broken line because there's no equality under it. And you shade, in this case it would state y is greater than the 2, that's above it. So we would shade in like this. And that's it. Unfortunately, we don't have enough room. We need a bigger board. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've learned from it. Stay tuned for our next lesson. Thank you.